All right, with us on set now to break down all of Election Day 2016 are two of our CBSN political contributors. We've got Democratic strategist Linda Tran and Republican strategist Kevin Sheridan. Good to see you guys.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
All right, so what are we watching for today, Linda?
Well, we're definitely watching Florida, as we've been talking about, but we're also watching the Latino vote more broadly. And so Hillary Clinton has, her campaign has talked a lot about how that vote is going to be key to whether or not she wins in particular states, including Florida, including Nevada, in places, and being able to compete in places like Arizona. So what she needs to do is overperform Barack Obama and continue to do so in that group in order to pull out some victories there.
You know, Kevin, Trump in a rally in North Carolina said that the U.S. presidential elections will be Brexit plus, meaning there's going to be a huge surprise here. It's going to be against the polls. What do you think?
Well, let's remember that Brexit was actually leading in the polls. It just wasn't believed. And so for that to happen, there's going to have to be an extra, it would have to be a plus. Because right now, Donald Trump is down in the polls. The final poll that came in last night had him down, 2-3 points nationally, and very close in the states. I'm looking for the turnout between urban and rural, and then what happens in the suburbs with college-educated white women especially. How many of them stay home, or how many of them flip to vote for Hillary Clinton? They're reliably Republican usually. Let's see what they do this year.
Kevin, it's interesting. There have been reports that people have posited what would Donald Trump do if he wins, or if he loses, what kind of a speech he would give. Would it be a speech that would reconcile, bring the country together? There's been a lot of divisiveness in this election. Or would it be something that would be more combative? And that's been posited if he doesn't win the election. We know you worked on the Romney campaign. Governor Romney did not write a concession speech because you guys thought you were going to win. I'm curious, how does a candidate decide when not to start writing that speech?
Yeah, this is one of the toughest things anyone can ever go through, and only a few people will ever know what that's like to come this close to the White House and not get there. And for either of these candidates, they don't want to think about that right now. So they're going to go up all the way to the point of 9, 10, 11 o'clock tonight.
You think Hillary hasn't thought about it? Come on, Kevin. She's been thinking about it for years.
Right now, I don't think Hillary's thinking about losing.
Yeah,
I believe that Hillary thinks she's going to win. And I think the more interesting concession speech would be hers, because I think the entire country will be absolutely stunned if Donald Trump can pull off a victory tonight. And it would be a Brexit-style kind of surprise, because nobody sees this coming. Everyone who's predicting it sees a big win. Now people are just talking about margins. I do think there will be a lot of ticket splitting, though, and so we should all be interested in what happens to the Senate tonight, because that's really where this is right now. It's whether or not enough people split their tickets in North Carolina, New Hampshire, Indiana, and places where we're fighting to hold on to the Senate as Republicans and see if we can hold on to the Senate.
Linda, there's been so much focus on the top of the ticket, but what about down ballots? Do Democrats really have a shot at taking over the Senate?
There's definitely a shot. I don't think that if Democrats win enough seats today, it's going to be by a large margin that there is a majority in the Senate. The larger question over the past several weeks was really about the House. And what we saw over the last, 11 days ago was that momentum towards picking up a large number of House seats really halted. And so I think that even though all of that has played out in the last couple of days, that window of opportunity is over for many of the Dem challengers on the House side.
Kevin, regardless of who wins tonight, what does the Republican Party look like tomorrow morning? In other words, in 2012, there was an autopsy report that was done about how best to not revamp the Republican Party, but make it a bigger tent. What do you think happens tomorrow?
The Republican Party needs to recognize what the American voters said to them this year, and Washington in general should do the same. And that is, they're sick and tired and fed up with the way things were going. A more populist strain has emerged, and the Republican Party is going to have to adopt those parts of it that it can in a conservative and optimistic and forward-looking way and make that part of its platform. And I think that will happen. I think it will take some time. I think some leaders will emerge. I think Paul Ryan will be at the center of that debate, but there will be others. And I think we'll go forward, and I think that this experiment that we've tried this year, if he doesn't manage to come out victorious, will be studied for a while, and we'll understand it better.
But what so help our viewers understand in 2012 when an assessment was made of the party and a path forward was acknowledged, what the Republican Party missed, I should say. Like, what didn't they get about what we've seen this year?
Well, I think it was heavy on demographics and a little bit light on what the voters actually wanted. And so I think we need to do both. And the problem that we had in 2016 is that we recognized the fact that we need to not offend and not turn off certain demographics. And we ended up getting a candidate who did all those things. And I think every Republican recognizes that's not the way forward, but that shouldn't be the only thing voters care about. We should have a policy-driven, forward, optimistic-looking agenda, and the party should fight it out on that. And we should get beyond all this demographic stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Donald Trump and his candidacy is literally the antithesis of the GOP autopsy that came out. I mean, that was, from my view, and obviously I'm a Democrat, but from my view, it was an opportunity to demonstrate that the party could be much more inclusive than it had been up until that point. Then you've got Donald Trump talking about building the wall, banning the Muslims, all of these other sorts of things. And I think there's going to be a significant tidal wave among communities of color. So we've talked a lot about African American voters. We've talked a lot about Hispanic voters, but we haven't talked about Asian American voters. 4 million of them cast ballots in 2012. Overwhelmingly, they supported Barack Obama at 73%. And all signs point to them actually turning out in big numbers this cycle as well.
We talk about what a divide there is. You were saying rural versus urban is a figure that you're going to be looking at. Whoever loses this election, what needs to be done to bridge the divide? Because clearly one voting electorate is going to feel very scorned.
Right.
Look, okay, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, this is the question of the hour, because we all have a sense of what we think is going to happen today on Election Day. But okay, that's one day, one moment. But this country is extraordinarily polarized. There are a lot of people who feel like what exists right now has left them behind, and that's on both sides of the aisle. So whomever ends up in the Oval Office has really got to tackle this head on, I think, and hopefully bring more people to the table and have a lot of people focused on healing America.
And I think if Hillary Clinton wins tonight, what she needs to do is do something that is against her nature and against probably what a lot of her political advisors would tell her to do. And that is to put the country first and foremost above her own political future, do something risky.
What would that be? What would that look like?
Take a look at Paul Ryan's Better Way agenda or something. You know, look at something that she could find an olive branch and really pick out something in it that she could work together with House Republicans on as a sign that she's looking to move forward. Make some risky appointments. Bring in some Republicans into her cabinet. Maybe jettison some of her more controversial people inside of her inner circle and show that she really recognizes what people are saying, that they don't want more of the same, that they don't want 30 years of just the same old Clinton way. They want something new. They want to be heard. They need something from the outside. And I think she needs to do that. And the same goes for the Bernie Sanders wing of the party. She needs to co-opt that as well.
Linda, I want to ask the same question that I asked Kevin, which is for the Democrats, and we've been talking about this for the last 6 months, that people are making a choice, and sometimes people feel they really don't have a choice. It's between someone that they think is dishonest and trustworthy, i.e. Hillary Clinton, and somebody who they think has made odious remarks and obnoxious remarks when it comes to race, gender, etc. Democrats, Donald Trump has said, look, for 40 years, the Democrats have been coming into your neighborhoods and they've been offering you what they say are solutions. And yet you find yourselves in many cases in African-American communities, in minority communities, in the same situations that you were, 10, 15 years ago. So is there going to be a recognition that needs to change, that perhaps the old school, the old liberal policies that were, that in some cases come from the Lyndon Johnson era need to be swept away, and we need to look at things, or the Democrats need to look at things in a different way?
I think that's a really huge question. I would start by saying I do think that the Democratic Party has fought very, very hard over many decades to support issues that matter to communities of color, whether you're talking about education or access to health care, job creation, all these other sorts of things. And I think that Hillary Clinton's made pretty clear that she expects to make a part of her first 100-day agenda a lot of things that matter, especially to communities of color, but also more broadly to Americans. She said, her top priority is jobs and infrastructure. She wants to focus on criminal justice reform, something that has really been elevated, unfortunately, as part of the national conversation, and fortunately, over the last year, because it's something that people really haven't really been focused on for a very long time. She's talking about tackling comprehensive immigration reform. And those are all things that I think are a good starting place. And it just remains to be seen what kind of foundation is built for a broader and a working government under her.
All right, guys, get your Red Bull, get your coffee, whatever your poison is.
Just getting started.
Yeah, we're just getting started. Linda Tran and Kevin Sheridan, we thank you both. Appreciate it.
Thank you.